I started my career in corporate America, driving on my way to work, and every morning I would stop by the Circle K and get hazelnut drip coffee every single day. And then I realized that was terrible. And I moved on to a coffee shop, started getting lattes every morning, realized that was way too much sugar and milk, moved over to Americanos, and then one day had amazing specialty coffee. I started buying that on a regular basis, looked at my budget for the month, and could not believe that we were spending so much money on coffee. And so I had to hit a reset button and think through, how do I improve or keep this great coffee that I'm loving, keep the quality there, but do it in a more efficient manner. And so the only solution I could come up with is I've got to figure out how to make great coffee at home. And that's what I want to talk about today. Let's back up 15, maybe even 20 years to my coffee experience and talk through it. And then we will talk about some tips on what I've done over the years and how I'm able to have really great coffee, be a coffee shop owner, a coffee roasting business owner, have great coffee every single day without having to come into my coffee shop. And so I think that there's 4 major areas that coffee shops really excel. There's a piece of the whole coffee shop world that is one of the reasons we go, and you can't replicate this at home. The community in the coffee shop, the relationships you have with the baristas, the relationships you have with other people when you meet at a coffee shop. I'm not trying to replace that at home. That's something really sweet that we love about the coffee world. But there are things you can do to maybe get that a couple of times a week instead of every single day. And so what can you do at home that makes your daily coffee shop experience better? The first thing that coffee shops have over every home barista's setup is equipment. At the end of the day, a coffee shop is making thousands of cups of coffee every single week, and so they may have $30,000 to spend on an espresso machine. None of us are going to put that into our house. And so what can you buy that gets you close to be able to get there? Well, let's talk first about what type of coffee do you drink. Do you like just drip black coffee? Do you get a pour over at your coffee shop? Do they have other manual brew methods? Or are you a latte person? If you're looking for drip black coffee, there are great machines out there on the market, not like a Mr. Coffee coffee maker that most people have, but great machines out there on the market that can really give you an excellent cup of drip coffee. And without going all the way down that rabbit trail, my encouragement is to look for coffee makers that brew at a specific temperature. So some coffee makers will act like a percolator and actually boil the water, and it will always boil and brew at that temperature. Some have a preset temperature that they heat up to. But what I've learned about coffee makers in general is the first portion of their system is the heating element. That's the first thing that breaks down. And so if you're not brewing to a specific temperature, your coffee quality is going to go downhill really quick. So that's where I would start with a drip machine. If you're a pour over or a manual brew person, man, the options just open up. And we've talked through this in other videos, and we'll actually even talk through some of our brew recipes in future videos. But I would encourage you to go after a V60 pour over or a Chemex or something that's easy to clean up so you're not dealing with like the French press grounds, and just walk through brewing that at home. That's probably going to take you somewhere between 4 and 7 minutes. And let's be honest, it takes more than 4 to 7 minutes to go to a coffee shop. So you're really not losing much on the convenience side if you're going for a manual brew method. Now, the path for lattes at home, that's a more difficult path. Coffee espresso machines are expensive at coffee shops for a reason. There's a lot of nuance to the machine. I think a few of our baristas have the Breville Bambino coffee maker, and that seems to be the best espresso machine that I've seen in terms of low cost, something you can make at home. And that would be the recommendation. But if you're going for espresso at home, know that this is a hobby, this is a skill that's developed, and you've got to go after it that way. The last piece of equipment that I'm going to talk about, but it's the most important piece of equipment, is don't skimp on a grinder. The grinder and the grind size and the grind consistency means everything in a coffee shop. When we think through our bars and we think through even just our training lab, a grinder means everything. Even when we're cupping coffees in our lab to choose which coffees we want, we're very particular on how we grind it because it has such an impact on flavor. And so whatever you're thinking through in your budget, and if you look and say, hey, I'm spending $200 a month on coffee shop coffee, and I want to build my bar out with like a 3-month payback, so figure you've got a $600 budget, my recommendation would be spend 50 to 70% of that on your grinder. Look for a $300 to $500 grinder, and then get a $20 V60, and you'll be so much happier than you are if you get a cheap grinder and go for a really expensive coffee pot. I promise you. The next area that coffee shops differentiate themselves from most home coffee setups is in the coffee curation. And I don't know where you get your coffee. You may get it from a local roaster, you may get it from a major chain, you may get it from like a multi-roaster coffee shop where they're bringing in lots of cool new coffees. What you functionally will be as a home coffee brewer is a multi-roaster coffee shop in your own house. You will be able to get coffees from different coffee shops and pick those. And my encouragement is don't necessarily skip on coffee. Like, you can save money with a home setup by buying bags of coffee from your local favorite coffee shops. And frankly, as a roastery and coffee shop owner, that's our goal. Our goal is to take people who don't really know that much about coffee, help them understand coffee, help put on display the hard work of coffee producers, and drive them from flavored lattes to at-home coffee brewers. And that's what we love to do. We, as a coffee shop, would be happy to just sell bags of coffee. We love the community side of everything of a coffee shop, but in terms of just sheer profitability, you're not hurting your coffee shop by buying bags of coffee. You're actually helping them. So go after good coffee and enjoy getting to pick and choose the coffees you love rather than just take what the coffee shop's on bar that day. So as we think through coffee curation in your at-home setup, think about the fact that, you know, a pour over is probably $1 to $2 a cup. A shot is maybe half of that. And so you can actually really pick some great coffees, maybe better than your coffee shop's putting on espresso or putting on pour over, and really play with that portion. And so it gives you kind of a new hobby. And it's not just going to the coffee shop every day, but it's curating great coffees and also saving money from your daily coffee shop coffee. You know, one part of the coffee curation aspect of at-home coffee that we haven't touched on is what if you don't want to save money in your coffee brewing experience and you're just trying to improve what you get for coffee? Coffee shops have to pay for their overhead, their labor. They have so many other things they pay for in your $6 cup of coffee that if you just spent that on coffee, the math says a 23-gram pour over, which is our recipe in the shop, and a 12-ounce bag of coffee, you could actually buy an $84 bag of coffee for the same price as your $6 cup that you're getting at the coffee shop. And so you've just opened yourself up to almost any coffee you can imagine and be able to really, really play with fun coffees. And so that's one of the great parts. And that's really, you know, going back to how I got started, like that's where it got really fun for me. I started with, hey, I want to save money. And then I started going down the path of, oh man, I want amazing coffees. And so this gives you a chance to turn something we all love, which is coffee every morning, into, man, let's just go get some of the best and be able to brew that at home every single morning. And that leads to really the next thing that, or aspect of a coffee shop that is kind of hard to recreate at home. And that is, you're not a barista. Baristas are not just order takers. They're not just pouring a cup of coffee into a pot. These are skilled employees. And part of that skill is consistency, repeatability, cross-training so that every single barista is making drinks the same way. And you're you, so you don't have to do it exactly the same way as the guy next door. So we don't have that. You get to kind of build your own recipes to your own preferences, to your own flavor profile, what you want to drink. And so my encouragement is, if you're making like a coffee pot coffee, well, that's easy. Just get the right equipment and get a scale and brew it the same way every single day. If you're in the pour over world, there are some tips and tricks out there to be able to gain quality without a whole lot of practice. There's some really easy ways to make a great pour over. That doesn't take a lot of practice. But then if you're going down the home espresso, like that is a hobby, that is some practice. If you love an iced latte every morning, that's easy. They're just pouring milk in a cup, and you can, there's a lot of espresso machines that can kind of get you 90% of the way there. So how do you get to making espresso at home every single day that you're happy with? Well, the first warning is the more obsessed you get with coffee, the more obsessed you'll get with coffee. And so the harder it's going to be happy with what you're making. And so pick your standard of where you want to get to and target that. That may be very simple, good lattes every single day. That may be a flavored Americano, which is very easy to make with a splash of milk. That's very easy to make. And so think through, like, what are you going for? And then think through what is the equipment that you need to get there. And this isn't like an equipment review channel. We're not going to talk through all of the different espresso machines. There's enough of those out there. And so my encouragement to you is think through what your budget is. Find the espresso machine that meets that budget and solves the problem of what you want the most. There are some espresso machines without a milk steaming wand on it that get way higher quality espresso for the same price as one that has a grinder, milk steamer, and pulls shots. And that one's just going to be lower quality because you're spending the money. Like, you get what you pay for. So think through what you want and then get what you need to get. And then practice and functionally factor into your purchase of the equipment an allocation for how much you're going to practice. And buy a couple of milks or a couple of gallons of milk and steam it for a couple of hours and get to where you're happy with the consistency, and just practice and gain the skills. I don't want to intimidate you or deter you from espresso at home. I actually think it's a great hobby and really kind of a great way to expand your coffee brewing at home knowledge. In fact, Catherine put together a series of videos that walks through step-by-step how to get really good at espresso at home. She's one of the best baristas we've had. She walked through it, spent a lot of time developing these videos, and even just going and watching the first couple of videos from her will help you decide, like, is this something I want to get into? And you'll probably get into it and love it. People that get into espresso at home love it. And so don't take this as a knock against it. Take it as a just knowledge of what you're getting into when you get into it. And when you're thinking through just general home brewing, there's so many ways that you can make a normal cup of coffee and make it great. You don't have to start with lattes. Like, start with pour overs, add some cream and sugar to it. People apologize to me all the time knowing that I own a coffee shop when they put cream in their coffee, and I just kind of laugh. Like, have your coffee how you like your coffee. If you like it with cream, then have it with cream. Like, that's the joy of this drink is everyone has different tastes, everyone has different preferences, and do that. And maybe even, which leads to the next thing, is what are the great drinks that you have at your coffee shop and how can you recreate those at home? I mean, our top selling drinks are like a banana Foster's kind of latte where it's caramel, banana, bourbon extract. We make that in-house. We have like a honey lavender latte that's really popular. That's very easy to make in-house. Pretty much any of those syrups that coffee shops have, it's generally speaking easier to make it in-house. Just go find some cool extracts, add them to simple syrup, and play with it. That's a lot of the fun of having coffee at home. And you can put that extract in drip coffee, you can put it in a shot. We have lots of different drinks that we make where we mix a shot of espresso with some sort of a fruit juice along with some sort of an extract that we really like. And man, it just kind of opens up a whole new world of quote unquote mocktails that you can have every single morning. And so build that out and have fun with it. And I think that's the key is, we started this video thinking through, oh man, I looked at my budget and said, I'm spending too much going to a coffee shop every day. And you end it with, oh wow, I've turned home coffee into a really fun hobby that also saves money. And that's kind of the idea is, like, we get into this habit of going to a coffee shop every day to get our coffee, and I love it, and I do it all the time. But really, coffee is so much more than just that cup of coffee every day. And so think through what is it you love about your coffee and try to recreate that at home, and you'll enjoy it and you'll save money. So thank you. If you made it to the end, we appreciate you. We appreciate you watching our channel. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like, subscribe to this. If you have other questions, really what we're trying to do is answer a bunch of questions with coffee. We've listed off a lot of coffee related questions that we want to create videos for. But if you have questions about this, hit a comment below and we'll try to include that in an upcoming video. So thanks and see you next time.